Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Immergence Show. We took a week off and attended Augmented World Expo, which was great. I got the opportunity to meet amazing people, including our guest today. And we're going to talk about the secrets of exceptional spatial design, the insights from the incredible guest, Paolo Villanueva. Paulo's innovative work in XR, from healthcare training with leading institutions to storytelling projects rich with cultural depth, demonstrates XR's true potential. He is so much more than that. He was just sharing some of the exciting creative projects that he has been dabbling on, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know him. So please engage with us, comment, ask questions. We'll get to your great questions. Tag your friends in the chat, and let's get immersed. Hi, Paulo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Nico?
Good. Excited to hear your story. I know it's been a very exciting story of, coming from computer science, design, storytelling. You were telling me some of that. So I want to hear the full story and share it with our amazing audience.
Oh, wow. It's a long, long, crazy story. Okay. So I'll try to keep it as short as simple for our audience. So, in high school, I was a theater and performance kid. I'd be the person who talked. One time, I essentially was complaining during theater, saying, music should be this, sound should be this, everything should be this. And then someone told me, like, why don't you do it yourself? You sound like a really snooty artist. And and I said, I'm gonna do it, fine. And then I went to producing, went to directing, and they started realizing that somebody just needed to do the work. Somebody had to think about scores,
Right.
lighting, the mix of everything. And I realized at some point that computers was going to involve and integrate completely in this, coming from the art side. So I said to myself, I know what I want to do. I'm going to be a computer science major because I need to understand how technology is going to fuse everything. And then I did. I was the only person in that program who was doing multimedia projects, thinking about images, sound, and then started doing several startups that I was doing. This was like in the early 2000s. I'm already aging myself when I say, wow, I feel like I'm aging myself when I say early 2000s, because it was like coming in the 90s and going to 2000s. And then I eventually worked in advertising, I worked in venture capital, and I took a master's at Parsons School of Design where I solidified the design even way more because I knew that by existing in the intersection of liberal arts and technology, it would be the perfect way to think about experiences. Because one of the things that struck me is not just how techy or cool things can be, but the responsibilities and the understandings of the design and the world around us and how that connects. And and that is essentially what drove me here. What drove me to VR was intersecting things, coming things together, and building these really cool things. So that's why I do what I do, where I work with the different medical institutions, medical device manufacturers, industrialists. You're bringing all these different individuals together who are at the top of their game and their field, and trying to bring people together, think about how can we build a learning experience out of this, or how can we build a good story, a good performance piece out of this.
Wow. People often don't think about, enterprise to be actually about the story or performance. They just think of all those boring stuff that need to be communicated. So it's amazing to have somebody like you coming from those backgrounds and this creative mind to actually help them look at things differently. And that's really powerful. So can you tell us a little bit more specific about how you transitioned from traditional design to XR? Like what made you make that leap?
What made that leap was essentially video games. I love video games. I love the potential power of video games. I think what really drove that transition was a, a very deep class that I have about game design, on a really good paper. I actually even wonder if I have that paper here. Because because I also want to give credit to where credit is due on that piece of
Let me know
paper.
when you're ready to show it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that piece of paper right now.
Cool.
Yeah,
While
essentially
you're
what,
yeah,
yeah,
while you're
go ahead.
finding that, I'm gonna say hi to our amazing audience. Hi everyone. Hi Felipe, Jean, Casey. We're so grateful for all of you and everyone else who's tuning in live or watching the recording. We're so grateful for you all being here. And Casey says deeply resonant cultural experiences are more important than ever in our world today. 100%. Well said. And you were saying PV, sorry.
Yeah, so it was, let me see, it trying to see if I can find it. So it was a research at Parsons School of Design, and I'm still trying to find that paper,
It's okay. We
but
don't have.
yeah. Eventually it'll pop up, but essentially what it was games were the perfect places to articulate complexity. Literature moves you from one page to the next, audio does one thing, video does something. But with the power of interaction and the power of failing states, success states, you're able to articulate a very complex idea. One
Mm,
such example is that whole concept of teach a man to fish, and he can be able to catch as many fish as he can.
yep.
But and how that gets warped is, let's say for example, you are a player in a very impoverished company. You give someone $1,000 because you think that's the best, and with that $1,000 you try to save your life with that by buying things. Eventually you will lose out. You will try the game again over and over and over again just to see how can I get myself out of this when someone donates $1,000 every or so period. And then that essentially teaches the idea, oh, it's not just giving money, it's doing more than that. And that's a very complex thought that if you tell someone about it, they're going to think, oh, yeah, we can just donate money, but there's something more layered, and games can articulate something as complex as that idea. So when I thought of that, I realized, oh, what if a person was really in there? Because you're already playing as the person. Great games like Papers, Please teaches you a much deeper story. So with VR, I was like, okay, let's put someone here. And oh, I have to shout out, I'm sorry, I always forget about this, but it dates me. Um, Johnny Quest was the reason why I loved going to VR. Johnny Quest. I'm not sure if anyone knows about it. There's a whole thing where you have to go to Quest World and they have stories, and I'm like, I really want to go in there. So it's those two things,
Amazing.
really.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, the overall idea or goal of these social media and a lot of these experiences is to bring us closer to reality. And what's better than virtual reality, which is basically fully immersive and now more realistic than ever, which we'll get into your passion for Apple Vision Pro. But before that, maybe tell us a little bit more about your specific role and your organization and kind of like what type of activities you do on a day-to-day basis, and we can get into how you work with enterprises.
Okay, great. If I can share my screen, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go waltz through some of these. Oops. I gotta do the share. Yeah. Present. It's funny that the percent.
Wait,
Yeah,
we can go to the next one. Okay, there you
yeah.
go.
I think a much better way for me to do this is to just go to the video projects and play it as is, and then we'll treat this like a really good slide because I don't want to show
Yeah,
everyone essentially the whole video in itself.
yeah.
So 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 I work in a company called Raider. Education XR is our product. And Education XR is a Unity wrapper. It's something that is placed on top of Unity, and it allows users to be able to build experiences using one touch drag and drop tools. So essentially all you do is you put your stuff in, and then you select something, it's immediately interactive. And
Mm,
if you want to take it one step further, we have visual scripting. And when we say visual scripting, you don't code, you just drag things from point A to point B. Let's say I
mm,
pick something up, it goes there. And you can also script if you want to, but typically users use the drag and drop tools to be able to build something really quickly. So My role essentially in the company is I work as the creative director, and we work with our enterprise companies to build the experiences. We build the experiences by bringing together our design team, our art team, our education team, and I sit there and we essentially figure out how do we get all the goals that they need to, how many modules this is going to be, and then we go build it together. The other part of the company is we license out these tools to our enterprise partners, and they essentially can build those experiences themselves. And we
Mhm.
have training and guidance to be able to help them build. But really, the secret sauce here is essentially everything that's built here is immediately multiplayer by design. So
Mm.
most users tend to build one for the iPad, one for the iPhone, one for the Mac, almost all of that
Yeah.
there. But here you design it once and it'll exist on your phone, your tablet, and your spatial computing headset. And anything that's built is immediately multiplayer. So someone can be in XR mode by the swimming pool, and someone can be in the Windows device, someone can be in VR, and they can be collaborating together. So you can see they have the XR mode where the device is in their real world. One person in the VR headset is in there, still in that world, interacting with it, and they
Wow.
can put things in the space. And anything that's native to the device, whether it's hand tracking for the Oculus Quest, sorry, Meta Quest, saying Oculus Quest, would just naturally work. We have AI and voice tracking. And my favorite part is just having so many people in the space just collaborating together, whether they're phone, tablet. So this is sort of that secret sauce that gets everyone into this because not everyone has a headset, but everyone has these existing devices. So that's essentially what I do and what I'm building.
I love it. Thank you for getting to the actual point of differentiation, which is so important. And I know that kind of your specialty is to create these familiar experiences to, onboard and engage more of these enterprise audience. Can you share an example of that, you kind of created a good experience, good design that really transformed their skepticism into enthusiasm?
Um, I think I think one example was about the pharmaceutical one. I think because the pharmaceutical was such an interesting challenge because people had to compound drugs. I
Mm.
can't say which pharmaceutical company,
Yeah.
but one of the trainings we had was how to compound drugs in the space. How can you train to compound drugs? They were very skeptical because things were pretty tiny and pretty
Mm.
small, and they didn't even understand but compounding is a whole process where you had to take a piece off a wall, connect it here, invert it upside down. It's got to be upside down for it to drain, and connect it before you put it into uh the sealed tight container. So we prototyped several versions of that, and what really came out was they were skeptical that they wouldn't know, but what ended up happening was everyone would remember because they had that mental memory of I need to get this piece, that piece, that piece. They know the pieces that will come together. So they immediately remember, oh, I need a 10 millimeter syringe, I need this drug, I need this powder, compound it. The only thing we found out in the real world scenario, which was funny, was nobody told them how hard these were because VR cannot simulate how hard things are. So when they would try to push the syringe, they're like, "Oh, this is hard," and they're like, "Ugh." I was like, "It's like okay," and then, but they know that when they hear the click, that's good. So when they're pulling it, you'll hear the click. Oh my goodness, it's hard. And when they hear the click, okay, it's good. Now I got to rotate it. So because there's that association with the visual and then the mental, it 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 made them realize that hey, this actually is pretty useful.
That's
And
such a
and I
good
was
example.
yeah
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah yeah no, I was very proud of that. It was a challenge. One of the challenges that nobody probably would have seen was yes, we got it in VR with all the hands, but we also had to think about how would a phone user and a VR user collaborate by giving each other the drugs? How are they picking it up? And those were
Right.
things that that we worked behind the scenes to make sure that those users could just talk together.
And that is a very complicated example. I think Felipe worked in pharmaceutical, one of our audience members, and I remember him mentioning how expensive these equipments are, how risky it is to like do something wrong. So I can imagine how much you're saving and protecting the equipment by giving the training in a simulated environment. Uh,
Yes.
and I think that's a good segue into the question that he has. How do you measure the success of XR experiences in healthcare or cultural project? I mean, we can more specific talk about healthcare. Did you guys, were you involved in the success measurement part or not?
I I was in part of those calls, but I was not part of that. When we were working with the CDC, they had a measurement tool that they would have use test for the pilots in the different hospitals, and those measurements essentially, we had what we called custom analytics based on what people were doing, in what order they were doing, because one of the things in the feature is you have general analytics. How long did the user do this objective, fulfill that objective? But we can customize it to say, did they pick this up in this order? Did
Yeah,
they clean it in this order? And the custom can be so varied. So I worked with the education team to measure what are your metrics for success and how would they figure out the quiz. And from that, that essentially measured the success of the experience. And then anything that they did live, I didn't know how they measure that except during the reports when they would tell me, great, we have 67 success rate. The remaining others were because doesn't know how to use a headset, not familiar with this. And I all take that from user experience and then update the experience. Like maybe we need more onboarding, maybe we need more call outs, maybe so many things from that.
yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the question, Felipe. He's also asking, is the rendering all done on the device, or is it server-side or hybrid?
It's done on the device. It's using Unity.
Cool, cool. Awesome. Thank you. And what are some of the common challenges these companies like enterprises face when adopting XR, and how your job or your direction has been helping them?
Um, There are many challenges. I think there are challenges from a business standpoint, from management standpoint, just trying to get that in. But when we're focusing on the technicals and the design itself, one of the challenges is getting all the details that's needed. An example is doctors have certain types of muscle memory that they need to do when they enter a space, but they don't really articulate it when we're building the course itself.
Mm,
Example is they have to, when they walk into a room, they have to sanitize, put on the gloves, sanitize again, inside, outside. They also have two-layered gloves, three-layered gloves, and then they have to take it out and throw it. So if you ask doctors, how are your hands after so much sanitizing? Some who have allergies essentially are pretty rough, but they don't
yeah.
really mention that. And those are things that I need to ask. Like my advantage is I don't come from a healthcare
Mm,
background. I come from uh, being curious about the world around me. So
yeah.
I ask everyone stupid questions. I'm sorry, this is a stupid question. Like I'm sorry, this is a stupid question, but you need to sanitize. So I'm sorry, this is a stupid question, but can you turn around? I'm sorry, this is a stupid question, but can I put my hands down? Like sterile, right? Because in VR, I have to consider, you got to put your hands down, right? And then because oh, my hands are tired and everything. But then when you're in surgery, this is the sterile space. This is the not sterile space.
Yeah.
I'd say like, can I put a table rack here? And those questions emerge from even our artists asking like, do we put a tablecloth here? Do we put a sterile wipe here? And I'm going like, that's a good thought. I didn't think about that. And then it adds to me like there's like a sign that says turn off the lights. Wait, can I turn off the lights when doing this? Like so many things are going in my head. Like can I do this? Can I not do this? Can I put this in? Can I put this out? Do I put two hands? Do I take one hand? It's 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 just being stupid, I guess, to
No,
ask.
it's just curious and not making assumptions. I think it's very helpful. Rather than making assumptions and thinking that you know how it should be done, you're asking the right questions, and
And
making people think through their muscle memories.
I also fall into the pit of assumptions because once something looks so similar, we would assume to go forward. And I'm guilty of that. But also the experience allows me to have lucky assumptions. Like, I think this is what it means. And like, okay, that's what it means. I got it. Like you're picking up. So I try to make small risk assumptions and then transition to big risk assumptions. And then when the big risk assumptions play out, it's like, whew, that worked well. I get, made it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I finally figured it out. But then there are also some failures, of course.
Cool. And what are some unique considerations that you need to have when designing XR solutions for this type of high stakes, like healthcare or defense?
Um, what do you mean by, may I ask what you mean by solutions and requirements? It's just to
More like
expand a
what
little
type
more.
of unique considerations? Like, is there
Considerations.
any considerations that you have to make compared to creating other XR experiences? That for this is like high stake. Like, I guess you guys are more involved with the education part, so
Training,
everything
yeah.
will be fully, yeah, everything will be fully reviewed before it's implemented and people are learning. And I don't think it's necessarily as much risky at the end, because everything is just for training and eventually they're going to go in real world and test it again, right?
Yeah. Uh, Considerations are who are our users. I think that's the most crucial part is who is using this because we want to know how do we make them successful. It's really empowering someone to be successful.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's always nice to show something that's cool, like, oh, this is a cool rope effect. It's cool water. And I think like when there was like I think we were like mixing components. It was like, I have a cool water shader. Look at it, it's moving, and this one goes up and down. And I always think about like, I don't think we need to show that. I think we need to focus on
What
uh
the
what
job
do
to
they
be
learn? Yeah,
done.
what do they need to learn and how do we make them successful? One thing that we were building for one company was cleaning a nuclear medicine facility, and was cleaning it after they were doing their process. And I learned about wiping and cleaning. And after that, now when I clean the house, I know how to clean it properly. It's not like it's like okay, spray like one thing I learned, and I didn't realize not a lot of people know this, was for Clorox and all the other wipes, there is actually a contact time inside, but on the hospital ones, it's big. So when you actually put wipes on the floor, you actually have to leave it on for that number of time that's written in the back, so that
Wow.
it disinfects the space. You don't spray and then wipe. You spray. You wait for it to saturate, and then you wipe it out.
Wow. So
But
you're learning household
yeah,
stuff too from this. That's really funny.
yeah.
Cool. So if you want to show us any other example, then I
Ooh.
can get to more questions. And we do have some more questions from our audience as well.
Yeah, let me see if I can open up the wider video. Where is that? This wider promo, so I can just show really fast snippets of things. Yeah, we have this experience here, a classroom, minimal rig. I always like to show the engine. This is the one with GE, our radiology training, forklift training, engines, statistics, circuit board, the AI.
Wow.
One of the fun things I think about the platform was internally we have game jams,
Mm.
and 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 we create game jams of like, what if we're like Spider-Man? How quick would it build something for 48 hours? What about a space game where you're flying in the space? So you can see this was built in no less than 48 hours in the platform in Education XR really, really quickly.
Wow.
We had one about you're a pirate, you're in the middle, and it's kind of like dodgeball. You're in the middle, you just have to jump because people would throw these punches, you fall, and then you respawn.
So these are more like team building activities or
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because everyone in the team is on a very specific skill level. They're like
Yeah.
either just an artist, they're either a designer, they're an engineer, and they're
Right.
focused on that. So by bringing different teams together and doing a game jam, they're actually learning what are we actually building
Mhm.
and what how can we improve it? Because the engineers will try it, they're actually doing the software and they're like, we can make this part better. Like this is bad, this is laggy.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
it help it helps the team go. I built a horror game where people. It's kind of like I forgot that game where someone would have to chase you and you have to do a bunch of puzzles to solve it. It was really fun to build. Um, there is this
Fun
one.
use
This one.
cases. Yeah.
This one was really funny. You had to plant guns to shoot zombies to protect your cats. So your cats are here. It's kind of like Plants vs. Zombies. So you plant to get like special plant-based guns. It was so
Wow.
hilarious. Hilarious of a concept. So yeah, we have a bunch of different projects that we've done. Those videos are available on our YouTube channel and Education XR on YouTube, so you can see how those were built.
I
If
appreciate
anyone's
it.
yeah, if
Thank
anyone's usually curious about it, it exists there, and you can see like some of the behind the scenes of that. So if you go to like the Education XR channel, some of the game jams are in here and some of the features as well. So
Cool, cool.
yeah.
So if you were to tell us some like principles or tips about UX UI design or just design in general in the spatial experiences, what would those be?
I think a really good framework is uh feel, see, do.
Hmm.
So a good framework to come when you come into the space and you start
Right.
is you put people in the space itself and you get them to understand what essentially is happening around them. Feel the music, feel the sound, feel the ambience, feel the room because presence, they need to understand presence. This is something that Half-Life Alyx has made us all realize after the early years of VR. See, what do you see in front of me? What am I able to do? They see things and then we make them do. They have to feel, see, do for each phase of that.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah. That
Awesome.
I think that's a good way to I guess simplify that, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, high level. Yeah, before feeling and all of that, you can't really design anything because a big part of the design is that emotional experience that you're creating.
Yeah. I'll do a little deep dive for the one for JK fit in here. So feel, think about is the audience themselves? Are you
Mhm.
embodying a character? Are you first or third person? Are you an active or passive observer? Are you just seeing animations? Are you active? C, what is the stage for this experience, this story? Is this seated, standing? Is it comfort or accessible? Is it tabletop, room scale? Does this change throughout your story? Are you changing different perspectives of what you see? And do, it's synonymous with interaction. You have questions to consider. How does your audience interact? What are the mechanics? When does your audience interact? And why do the interactions matter? So those are things to think
Uh,
about. Feel, see, do.
Love it. That hopefully will be helpful to a lot of our audience. JK mentioned very cool ties with the project I'm working on. We'll have a deep dive. Awesome and great. I'm grateful that you guys are enjoying and having some takeaways so far. And I'm curious, PV, if there has been any pitfalls that you initially faced, or lessons you kind of learned over time. Anything you can share with us on that?
Sometimes what the client envisions is not exactly what the experience is going to be. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we always imagine things uh, like a movie because we will always watch movies. It's the medium that we have. So when we dream and when we imagine, we always imagine like a movie. We see the shots. We see Tom Cruise running. We see him jumping. We imagine inserting the piece. So when you see Tom Cruise examining the piece, you see Tom Cruise pick it up. Like you see a wide shot. Then you see the close up of him picking up. I'm maybe doing MacGyver instead of Tom Cruise. And then you would open this up and then you would see a shot, take it out. So that's how your brain sees it. Like, this would be cool. We can make an experience out of this. Then you realize that really isn't possible in VR because you are in the space. You can't close up too far. And and from that, you have to guide the client. We've had some projects where we tried to follow it that way and we found out that no, it just makes people dizzy. It's impossible. There are in-betweens. A good example of the in-between is uh, if if you're watching a full immersive experience and you want to get that TV experience, you would have to cut off the immersion and put on a square of the TV or the screen itself to show those cutscenes. Resident Evil on VR does this where it shows the cutscene, then it cuts you back to the world. Apple recently did this with Bono, the concert. Really wonderful experience. It would cut between the full immersive space and then the square space where you see the close-ups and the shots. What was nice about it was they would extend 3D elements in the 2D to come out in the immersive space. So when text is there, it'll pop out everywhere. So it's kind of like bridging that gap. So it's
Interesting.
really just realizing that. So now my dreams are no longer in movie, but actually I'm there doing something. So it's kind of like, I'm here, what do I do? So I'm always in first person. It's more terrifying to dream like that because you're now figuring out what to do. So you're aware you are an active participant in the dream instead of someone watching the dream. And
Mhm.
personally, I think being an active participant in a dream is both scary, terrifying, depending if it's a nightmare or a good dream. Sorry.
I love that connection that you made. Cool. That was awesome. And I hope that's helpful for those who are designing to think about it, differently from what we're used to. Cool. I want to transition a little bit about your personal projects, and the passions that you have for bringing the community together, for the Vision Pro aspect, and all of that. Maybe before all of that, why Vision Pro is so attractive to you? Maybe tell us a little bit more.
So, so Vision Pro was very attractive primarily because of how Apple approaches things. I think
Mm,
the decisions they make in making design. I think there were two things that I was very excited for. One was Half-Life Alyx, one was the Vision Pro. Half-Life Alyx was very exciting because we all know, at least gaming industry knows, Valve is obsessed with playtesting. They're obsessed about making sure the experience is right. And they
mm,
would make all that learnings available through their commentary. And we learned a lot of things that shape the way games are built now from Half-Life Alyx. When we go to Apple, go into their design guidelines, I was very curious about how would they approach all of these things that we feel uncertain about? What are they going to keep? What are they going to throw? What are they going to take? Are they going to do it in an Apple way? And when it came out, I essentially had some hesitancy to it. And then I opened up and I understood, okay, I get it. I get why this is because we always have to remember not everyone knows VR. And the other reality of that's not everybody plays video games. I can't even get my wife to do a bunch of things with a controller. I can't get folks to do it. But then we understand if we move from an X, Y, and Z space, it just they just get it. So no Z, X, and Y, like up, down, left, and right, but Z is complex. So with the Vision Pro, with a lot of the designs, they always put on by saying start with the familiar. They don't put immediately 3D objects. They always say start with the familiar.
mm,
And the familiar is the bridging gap between the the things we're familiar with, the phone, the iPad, the Mac, and transitioning that into a deeper and bigger world because it's a long process. And I think that's essentially how we all started with an iPhone. We all started with the familiar screen. We were given really basic things from scrolling to zooming to pinching. And then we took that and brought it to many places around the world. So I think that's what got me excited about it. And of course the display. The display
Yeah,
was really, really sharp.
the
But I
colors, yeah.
yeah, but it's really just that commitment to that delight and joy and all those different design principles making it a good experience.
Wow, awesome. And yeah, I mean, they have done a good job also positioning themselves as the right solution and OS for creatives like yourself. So they have to keep supporting this audience that they have targeted. Cool. And what new possibilities do you think this Vision Pro opens up for creators and technologists that other platforms like Meta Quest couldn't?
I think it opens up in many ways. So the Apple Vision Pro is the perfect place for filmmakers and storytellers who want to have that idea of the mise en scène, the film, the music, because Apple traditionally, I think everyone knows the whole springboard that make them up was the iPod. That was music. And then they suddenly had videos and video editing, Final Cut, Logic, Motion. So they are very familiar with very traditional media and taking that one step further, especially with Apple Immersive Video, 180, 360, and all the announcement of WWDC. So that's a perfect place to put it on because it's really the best place to experience it. And comparing it to Meta, where a lot of the Oculus comes from games, it also tells a good story of interaction and movement. But it always depends on what kind of design principle you're willing to go for your story. And I think those two choices are beautiful because we want to have choices. The
Yeah.
other thing also is the audience of the Meta Quest and the audience of the Vision Pro is totally different. We
Mhm.
would say that the Apple Vision Pro are super rich bougie people because they can be able to pay for $3,500 headsets. But they are an audience that we can introduce new stories and new ideas to. So I wouldn't really say save it up because one is easier than the other. But if we want to bring awareness to a different group, this is one way to be able to communicate to them.
And a lot of also businesses that were open-minded and flexible, wanting to incorporate these new technologies and could afford this price tag. And like Ian mentioned, it's not very affordable for everyone. But hopefully, in the new announcements we're gonna have in September, we're gonna see a new version that is more affordable. There are rumors definitely about that.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Yeah. Go ahead.
I did want to add something is I think this is going towards Christine's comment. Do you find some industries are more resistant to learning through VR versus traditional training methods due to this generational learning? Welcome, Christine. I'm not sure if you're still on the call itself, but I was talking about the platform we have, Education XR. Essentially, we build it once and it goes to all devices. So when we build those trainings, we immediately exist on existing devices, phones, tablets, PCs, Macs, and then it's also ready for VR. This was a way for us to bridge the gap because we would be able to build those training experiences for their existing devices. We're also ISO certified, every certification there. And then if they have five, two, three headsets, that same experience already works there. So as the company grows, let's say for example, some executive says, "Hey, we have 5 million in our budget for next year. Do you think we should buy headsets?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's go buy them." What about our training? Do we need to budget for build the training? No, our existing training already works on it. So when they put it on, they're like, "How come we never thought about this before?" And then they're going to be like, "We should put some of the budget to make more deeper immersive stuff." And that's essentially how it comes together. And that's what's pretty exciting about where we are in the space because um, as going with the Vision Pro, start with the familiar and then take it there. So it's bringing all those concepts there. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And to that point, Felipe said, interesting and good points. So then through a UI may be ideal if the users are not yet accustomed to it. then it's not useful. So basically, slowly getting people using the new interface.
Yeah,
Very
I would maybe transition showing one Vision Pro project was I made a point on this project that I'm doing with the Vision Pro to make sure there is no scrolling because scrolling is it's an easy interaction with Vision Pro, but then I found out users really have a hard time scrolling, at least a
mm.
good amount. So this experience I'm doing, I made a rule, no scrolling. For now, no scrolling, and then we'll add the scroll on an update in the future.
And that's a good point about getting feedback and looking and observing your audience when they're using it and iterating based on that. Then you just get closer and closer to what will be more seamless. Cool. Do you want
It's
to show
true.
us something before I move on to the next question?
Yes, definitely. Give me a oops, let me see if I can just prep this up.
Sure.
Okay, good. All right, let's go share. So so one of the projects I have for the Vision Pro that's coming out soon is a good friend of mine from college who's part of a chorale choir. He's finished his PhD in Indiana. He's won awards in Europe. He's Dr. Ang Angko, artistic director. He launched a choir in San Francisco, and because he's a good friend of mine, he was thinking of how to take this one step further. And spoke with him, and I said, "You want to do this for spatial audio and Apple Vision Pro?" And he said, "Yeah, let's work on it." So we worked on this together last year in December, and we have an app that's coming out by the end of July, and a newer update with iOS with Vision OS 26 coming out later in September when that comes out. So this experience itself is a concert experience where we recreate a lot of the spaces. You're able to watch the experience in 2D 4K, in 180, and in spatial audio. The
Mm.
equipment itself is recorded with Canon R5C, and the audio itself is recorded with a 64 channel ambisonic mic.
Wow.
And the whole experience itself is fully immersive. The audio itself rotates. You get to choose to hear between the sopranos and everyone around you. And this was one way for me that was exciting because it brought together my love for both um, music, design, and the Vision Pro. And they have a concert that is happening in San Francisco if you're in the Bay Area on June 27th and July 6th in Glendale, California. We'll also be recording these and putting them on the app once we're done processing, and this will come out with the next update for Vision OS 26. But this is what essentially the experience is. It's the Lalo Ensemble app. So
Oh,
shout out, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Did you guys buy all this equipment or renting it or like how does it work?
So a good amount of the equipment is rented.
Mm.
Some of them I own. Some of them are a hybrid of different objects coming together and getting them to work together. So yeah, so
You
that's
have to set
essentially what it is.
everything up. It's not like, you can just buy off the shelf or rent it. It's like you have to set it up in a certain way.
Yeah, it's you have to set. You can rent a lot of these off the shelves, some of them, but you have to set them up in such a way that would make sure you would get the best output. Um,
Yeah.
if anyone, yeah, we came out with over eight, actually no, 16 terabytes of footage from that recording. So it was a lot of content, a
Yeah.
lot of content to sift through. It's probably the first content in a while that has made my new Silicon Mac turn on the fans. So I was like, wow, it's like it's turning on
Wow.
the fans. It's been years since I've heard it. So
A lot of processing. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very unique experience and unique capture of experience. Cool. I want you to tell us a little bit about your project around the Filipino heritage that you've been working on. Yeah, tell us more if there's anything you want to show us. I think that's a great story.
so Tales of the Aswang VR is an upcoming Filipino mythology project that I originally built in 2017. This was a project I did for one of my thesis projects from Parsons School of Design, and I know it's been writ and I know it's been public on Steam, but I have to change the date for this. Uh, these are the old HTC Vive renders. I think I'm sharing a couple of these. Yeah, coming soon.
Nice.
The old HTC Vive renders. And it's gone through several processes based on the way the industry has shifted from the HTC to the Oculus Quest 1, the Meta Quest 2, Meta Quest 3. Sorry, it's been a while in the VR space. I still say Oculus. And from that, finally wrapping up on the Apple Vision Pro because the design methods were something that I felt was perfect. But the game itself is an exploration of mythological creatures and how that associates with our innermost, darkest, most fears, things we're afraid of, or what they represent. I would I would probably say it's kind of like the design principle of exploration is similar to how um, Miyazaki did Spirited Away. So it's not going to copy that, but it's the idea of what is our relationship to these mythological and how we interact with them. They're not necessarily scary and terrifying, but they
Mhm.
coexist with us. And how do we engage with them? So that's what the tales are. It's not. It may look terrifying, but they're not really meant there to terrify you. So this is currently in production. Um, Not much to show, except if I am somewhere and I happen to have an HTC Vive somewhere, I can pull out an old build and then give you a headset and let you play a 2017 build. But everything is now going to the Vision Pro uh, for this experience. Yeah.
And what do you think that XR is allowing you to do to tell these stories differently from, what you could be reading or watching?
Um, the transition, the familiar to the new, scale and feel, see, do, all of those design principles to bring people from the reality around us and bringing us into this different world and coming out of it. That was really just that, because there is really a beauty of the suspension of disbelief of movies, books, and films. There's
Mhm.
something about trying to go into the VR space um, and being immersed in it. A lot of the experiences in movies sometimes would take 3 hours to get a story across, and you have to invest time in it. And if I'm able to capture a little bit of wonder and curiosity in the first 5 minutes or 3 minutes alone, then I think I've had someone curious enough to want to try this when the Vision Pro becomes a mass marketable device and it's available. It's really just getting others to dream, because a lot of things I want to do is I want to empower others to make more content. If I
Mhm.
can get others to dream how theirs would go, then I believe I'm already successful in my personal journey in getting others to imagine what they can build.
Wow, that's such a good perspective. We often think that this is just a different way of storytelling, but also you pointed out the efficiency of storytelling, like how fast you're communicating the content and the message. That's really interesting and good point to think about. Okay, cool. Do you want to add anything before I ask a
Yeah,
question?
I
Yeah.
did want to add, it's the same effect when you're in a video game and you're in a space and you want to look at everywhere, like in Zelda, right? You can immediately go and fight the bad boss if you want to, but if you go around the world and explore, you're going to learn a lot about the world and how much it's changed
Mhm.
from the two Zelda games on the Switch. But that takes time. When you're in VR, you're immediately, what's this, what's that, what's this, what's that, and then immediately you already know what's the first thing people wanna grab on. They're like, I like this thing. It's like, and then I realized, why does that attract you? And you understand more about them, themselves, the world, and everything. You just know it that quickly. And I think that's what's beautiful about it.
So the onboarding is so much more seamless and quicker as well. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Felipe said, wondering how this will work with Unreal Engine using meta sounds, the previous experience that you shared. Um, And I know the Vision Pro is underwhelming visually with Unreal, but if the experience is focused or attenuated, and the focus is on meta sounds, you could make some pretty amazing sonic experiences.
Yeah, I was like, I don't have any comments on Unreal at this time.
Yeah,
But
it is that.
I love. I wanted to look at Felipe's recent question on Disney versus antagonist protagonist, good and evil. So there is a book. I'm not sure if I gave that book to someone. Play and play book. Sorry, it's like I'm trying to remember. One good book is Sid Field's screenplay. One is How to Write a Story. I'm trying to remember the. Oh, there it is. I think it's Story by Robert McKee, and there is I think there's another type of story. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Story by Robert McKee is one book. But I you can cut off the screen and I'm going to explain something about the storytelling. So one of the things I found out about story is about not just the hero's journey, but creating fully fleshed characters. We
Mm.
have stories that are either driven through plot, character, or lore. Plot essentially means we must do something to get a thing done. We must get the piece of object, bring it to the place, and get it done. Get the MacGuffin. Characters are character-driven stories where we love the characters because they provide a much more holistic view. That's why in some games like Final Fantasy, we say we love Cloud, we love Tifa, we love these characters because they react to the world around them. But the plot of Final Fantasy may be straightforward. You have to stop a big bad corporation that's trying to suck all the life force of the earth. But how the characters respond and live in that world is what makes us really love them. And you have lore, where the lore of the world is causing everyone to react and respond. So that's a play between your lore, your characters, and your plot device. Like, how does that all come together? Most of the movies we watch, do we watch it because we love the plot? Person must bring immune person from point A to point B in order to save the world. But the characters, a dad who's lost his daughter at the start of the apocalypse, or the person who doesn't understand what a father is, develops the relationship as they move on that journey. I'm talking about The Last of Us. So we fall in love with either the characters or the plot. Like I love this movie. Why do you love this movie? I love the plot because Severance talks about what if it's like to have a day as an outside and inner type of personality. So one way I remember in the book that I really love is for a character, what are the character's wants and what are the character's needs? How do those conflict and what are the desires? What the character wants right now is they want to be famous. But what the character needs right now is stability. They need to be stable. So what do they need to do? They need to get a job and do something that makes them great. But they want to be famous. So the desire is there. So they would make risks because they really want it. And then what does that do for their needs? When we create a villain with the same method, what are their wants and what are their needs? It's going in the almost in the opposite or in tangentially in the opposite of the main character. And that creates these beautiful mixture of the protagonist and the antagonist. That's just one example of how that just conflicts and contrasts. And a good way and a way to end and in a way to like end that whole story segment where I got excited for a moment is to tell a story. A story doesn't happen if someone's staying still. Someone has to go do something. When you tell a story in a campfire, it's usually I go and I bought a thing and something happened. So when you put it that way, you can simplify it. I wanted to get coffee, but I needed water. I went to get coffee, And on the way, I got really tired and dehydrated because I needed to drink water, but I wanted coffee. Because I was dehydrated, I ran into someone, and then that story just goes on and on and on and on and on. And then suddenly, what was the lesson there? What was the lesson that made you learn about the water and coffee? I should have drank water to start before I went out to get coffee, and that would have changed everything. Something like that. So that's
Yeah.
just a little, yeah.
Love it. I mean, this is, I love that you touched on a story so, more deeply, because without a good story, it doesn't matter what these tools are and what are they going to do, or how good quality the visuals or the sounds are. It just doesn't make us remember
Mhm.
the experience unless it has a good story. And on this show, we often talk about, what we can do to make a metaverse or immersive experiences better. And most of the time, we come back to this concept of storytelling, which I love that you shared more about. Awesome. Thank you. And want to get to the kind of predictions before we wrap. What kind of trends or technologies do you think is shaping the future of spatial computing and immersive experiences, more specific to what you're working on?
I think the trends are being driven by what people are buying. um, People are buying Ray-Bans. They're seeing success for this. Google is humping into the space.
Mm-hmm.
Apple's maybe they might hop into the space. And I think where that happens is we might have stories that involve that kind of space. Because right now I can talk to my glasses and I can tell me stuff. What if I can do stories? What if I can do simple things? And I like it because it simplifies the whole storytelling process. That's something that might be more mass market,
Mm-hmm.
but but where we're leading right now, I don't really like to make predictions because we've seen VR come in waves.
Yeah.
We just so I think we're going, and we have AI riding in the two waves of these two. I don't want to make any predictions, except I know there will be a lot of conversations. I know there will be a lot of noise, but um, what essentially is going to happen, and I think it's going to happen, is we're eventually going to find something that is easy for us to put in, easy for us to take out, because we're too overwhelmed with so many details. Like, we may have a lot of onboarding, a lot of interactions, but the one that essentially wins is the one that lets us plug in and relax. Same thing when we listen to music, we want to put our iPods on, listen to music, relax. We want to go to our phone, browse Instagram, relax. We want to put on a Vision Pro or maybe a headset, and then we escape. But our onboarding is very simple because it allows us to escape the world easily. So that's where I think we're going, because the folks that spend too much time on a headset is that's their job, or there's something in their job that makes them do that. Because I don't use the Oculus Quest outside of work because I'm already in it every day. And the Vision Pro is almost similar. Sometimes I don't unless I need to watch a movie. So if I sit on the couch, I want to watch an immersive thing. I put it on and I experience something, and then I take it off and I'm done. And I have watched full movies on the Vision Pro because it just allows me to do something that simple. So that's where that's what I'm thinking right now, because there's so much noise. And I think we just wanna relax and just wind down.
Yeah, it has to seamlessly fall into place of what we are looking to accomplish on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Mostly also related to entertainment, probably. Yes. Cool. And
Still
I'm
works.
yeah. What is the next big goal or milestone that you personally are working towards, if you can share with us?
Um, a personal milestone is hopefully getting a design award. That's a personal that's a personal milestone. I think I would love it if TSA would stop me for a whole chunk of aluminum. That's a that's a funny little thing. Like, I want to aspire to that. I think it's a nice dream to have. I wouldn't It's like when people try to claim for an Oscar and they'll never get an Oscar. I think it's a nice dream. I don't
Like an
expect it to
Augie Award?
happen. yeah, like an award. I think, but really, I what I aspire to is to find a great team of people. I want to find great people and work on a project together.
Hmm.
Everyone is still starting out, so if you have an idea, you want to brainstorm, you want to build a team, and then maybe find someone who can run a Kickstarter, run a thing, and I can help it manage that along. That's what I'm looking for. I think I'm really looking for people who want to collaborate because people not a lot of people have time. A lot of people are excited, but people are busy. They have their day jobs. And I think being able to have a startup, a group, an idea, a company, a studio with just really great people coming together is something I really would want. That's my next thing. And I hope to find people who can support, who can fund, who can do this, and work with me because I'm always thinking about what's the next cool thing I can build with this.
That's awesome. Well, we should talk.
Yes.
And how can our audience best engage or support your upcoming projects? I think that you put your Instagram handle in the name, right?
Um, you can follow me on Instagram. You can add me on LinkedIn. Those are like almost the two places. You can message me if you want my email address, or phone number or anything else. I think that's the best way for now. I don't have much. I am going to put our concert page for pre-order pretty much really soon. I'm just waiting for Apple to allow me to put the pre-order page, and I would plug that in, but I don't have that yet. But yeah, that would be the next thing is to inspire, have conversations, bring things, and get that going.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, PV. You were so fun to have a discussion with, and so much insights that you shared with us. We're so grateful. And thanks to our amazing audience, JK, Felipe, Ian, Casey, Christine, Rafaela, Jean, and everyone else who tuned in or will be watching the recording. We're so grateful for you. Join us back next week on Tuesday, 12 p.m. EST. As always, we're bringing the best in emerging tech and immersive experiences. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks again, PV.
Thank you so much, Nico. Great to
Thank
be